So my story takes place not just in the rearview mirror, but in the pre-conscious. Okay, so the pre-conscious, not to mansplain too much, the pre-conscious is that part of your brain. It's what you know that you don't know that you know until you remember that you know it. Okay, so um, if we're looking at the rearview mirror, I think of the pre-conscious as that little smudge in your mirror that you don't even notice is there. But if you were to kind of scrub it with your fingernail, you never know what you might see behind you. So my story starts about 2 months ago. My wife and I went camping. We were in the Poconos, and the most beautiful little foresty place you could imagine, and it rained for about 48 hours straight. So my wife, who is a completely sane person, said, I'm going to use this rain as an excuse to go to the tent and take a nap. And me, who's not as sane, said, I guess I'll hang out in the rain and rough it for 2 days. So I sat in the rain and I sat in the rain and I got wet. And a healthy person might like use this moment in nature to kind of connect with nature and connect with themselves. I did the opposite. I just sat and talked in my head for 48 hours straight, and just pitter chattered. And I kept saying this word over and over again, which is not an English word. And the word was benzona, benzona. And I was trying to figure out, like, how the fuck did this word get into my head? And I realized that I've been watching this show on Netflix called Fauda, which is an incredible show. It takes place in Israel and Palestine. It's about the conflict. And it takes place in Hebrew and Arabic. And they use this word benzona all the time, which in Hebrew means asshole or bastard or something like that. And I was thinking, okay, I've been watching this show. They speak in these languages, but why is this word like rattling in my head so much? So I went way back, and I realized that my father had actually taught me this word when I was 9 years old. So what happened when I was 9 years old is I got suspended from Hebrew school. And I got suspended from Hebrew school because on my birthday, I stood up and I recited the whole Hanukkah prayer, which is all in Hebrew. And instead of the word Hanukkah at the end, okay, the last two words are Shel Hanukkah. I said Shel Moshe, which is my name in Hebrew, which I thought meant, hey, instead of celebrating Hanukkah, we're celebrating myself. It turns out, as the teacher told me, that I actually said I'm lighting myself on fire. And she had a little bit of a laugh about it, to which I said, well, you're the teacher, so joke's on you if you taught me the language that shittily, right? So it turns out I didn't know Hebrew, but I got in enough trouble with my teacher that I was actually sent home from Hebrew school and asked not to return for 2 weeks. My father used this as an opportunity to start teaching me the Hebrew that he learned in the late 60s when he moved to Israel to dodge the Vietnam draft. So he started with the good words, which is like Boker Tov, which means good evening, maybe, and then Laila Tov, which means good morning. And he very quickly ran out of good words to use, or like interest, whatever, words that one would think you're supposed to learn. So then he started to teach me like all the other stuff that he learned in Israel. So I'm 9 years old. He taught me that hashish is the same word in English and Hebrew. So if you ever go to Israel, you can buy hashish. And then another time he taught me about a political rally that he went to, and everybody was shouting, Shahzad, Benzona, Shahzad. And he looks at me and he said, and I was a hippie, so I start shouting this because it's obviously a protest. And then I say to a guy next to me, hey, what am I saying? And the guy says, oh, Shahzar is our prime minister. You're calling him an asshole. My dad said, okay, well, I'm already into it, so I guess I'll shout it too. So this word, benzona, had been stuck in the preconscious, had been way buried, and had it not been for this TV show, I don't think it would have ever come back. Where the story gets really, I think, special and a little bit weird is that I would have forgotten the word entirely. And my dad died exactly 10 years ago, okay, 10 years and 3 months or something. And what I started to realize was he was a phenomenal storyteller. And I started to think how many of his stories are buried underneath those little smudges in the rear view. How many of those stories would I completely have missed? So I think this year has been a time of us, I think a lot of people are thinking about mortality in a way that we haven't before. I know that this memory kind of jogged what I thought about my dad and how many stories of his have I missed. And I started to think about all the people I love in the world, all the people I love in my life, and what parts of them do I not want to get shoved into the preconscious? Whether it's their stories, whether it's their laugh, whether it's how they, hug, whatever it is. And so I know it's not a TED talk today, but my call to action for all of you is to look around at your life, to look around at those you love, to start to think about what you would hate to get stuck in the preconscious and figure out a way to leave that in the conscious